and welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Alexandra.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I were aspiring writers with a very common problem. We never actually took the time to sit down and write.
Exactly. So to solve this problem, we issue a challenge. Each week we sit down and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read a story from you wonderful listeners, and then we talk about the rest.
Exactamundo. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A Doof Media
Production.
I don't know if y'all can tell anything different about the sound, but because there is a difference. Can anyone tell me what the difference is?
The difference is that we're live, baby.
Yeah, we're in person.
Live in person. After what? Like the last time we were in person?
It's literally been like a year.
2 years, yeah.
Oh my God.
That. Back in your old apartment, I think.
Well, that was just a year ago. I had an apartment last year. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was last year. This pandemic year is...
It's true.
2 years long.
Yeah.
It's really weird to think about stuff that was only a year ago. It really does feel like it's been 2 years.
Because I know, I think the pandemic was only for the summer, but I guarantee that was 3 different years each month.
Yeah, every season, different year. Anyway, because I wanted to go in Denton and look at stuff, and you're here, so
yeah, always. You can hit the square, hit
yes.
Opera House. Yeah,
the Opera House. I don't know anything about the Opera House.
Opera House. It's like a giant bookstore.
Really?
Yeah, it's just really, really cool. They have books and they have CD and DVDs.
Do they have opera?
Probably opera CDs.
That's
crazy that you've never been there.
I've never even heard of it.
Really?
I know about recycled books, and I only knew about recycled books last year, which is really embarrassing.
I'm pretty sure that's
recycled
the same
books.
place.
What? Was it an Opera House before? Is that it?
It's called the Opera House.
Okay.
Because that's when you look at it, it's the pink building.
I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah. When you walk in there, and then there's a whole bunch of books there. There's a lot of...
The bookstore.
The bookstore, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have... in the square.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I've been there, yes.
Okay.
Only once.
Okay, but I guess you didn't know it was called the Opera House.
No, because the actual name of the store is Recycled Books.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know how many other books are recycled, but it is a secondhand bookstore. But it's it's a very, very cool place in Denton, very indie. People always joke about going through the vinyls and then meeting the goth girl you love or the indie boy you will have trauma with.
Yeah, have trauma. Well, also the goth girl you have trauma
yes,
with.
It's but two different.
Be honest.
Yeah.
But there are different kinds of trauma. The indie boy trauma is just a little bit more dangerous. You know?
Yeah, and a little bit cringier.
Yeah, a little bit cringier.
Self-serving, Scott Pilgrim-esque.
Yeah.
Regardless.
But actually, I have a story that I might tell you later about how I was actually going through the vinyl
you had a meet cute in recycled books?
Yes,
wow.
but it turns out it just didn't work out.
Oh,
it just
sorry.
didn't work out. Yeah. I was looking in the metal section.
Right.
She was looking in the punk section.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so we were 2 sides of the same coin, but
that's too bad.
Yeah.
Wait, did you all go on a date?
No, of course not.
Well, that's too bad.
I have no self-confidence.
That's terrible. By now. You should have too much self-confidence.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm really good at bars because I'm...
I'm really glad. So anyway, we're in person. That's our intro. But we can actually do our podcast that we have together.
Yes.
That we've been doing for 2 years.
The amazing...
That was good. I like that.
The amazing Do the Right Thing podcast, which... speaking of the same podcast, the words that we had for this week, this month's topic being a one scene story, basically a story that takes place within one scene, whether it's one location, yada yada. So yeah, the words that accompany these fantastic stories we will be reading and talking about this week were pin, put, pipe, and mobile.
Yeah, fun words, fun alliteration. I did make a mistake where when I posted it on the subreddit, I put pin, pipe,
mobile. Pin, pipe.
But we also made a mistake 2 weeks ago where episode 122, I accidentally posted 121 again.
Oh, okay. So maybe that was because that we didn't get that many stories.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Could be.
But yeah, those are the words for this week, and the wonderful story we will be reading live on the podcast is by Sarahpenguin, with Grave Situation.
Yeah, Sarahpenguin's been writing for a very long time, and we read this story, and I think it's really emblematic of how Sarahpenguin has grown as a writer over time.
Yeah, Mondo growth.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. So we thought we'd read this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sarahpenguin does mention that the story is actually using words from last week, but we figured it is Do the Right Thing, and it fit this week really, really well. So, why not? So this story is called Grave Situation. I found a parking spot under a tree and hoped it would be enough to keep the summer sun off the car so I wouldn't get baked alive when I got back. My fingers tapped against the steering wheel, a nervous habit of mine. There was no real rhythm, as I had muted the radio 5 minutes into the drive. The upbeat songs I kept playing grated on me today. A glance in the rearview mirror had me locking eyes with the excited German Shepherd sitting in the back seat. Her tail started wagging. I turned off the engine and a lit-up radio that was playing silently went with it. I reached over to the passenger seat and picked up the supermarket flowers I bought as soon as the store opened. I had no idea what type of flowers they were. I just got them because they were purple and yellow and looked nice enough. The ratio was too far in yellow's favor, but that was to be expected with cheap flowers. The plastic that wrapped the flowers rustled as I picked them up and got out of the car. The smell of dew still on the grass hit me as soon as I was out of the car. I opened the back door and grabbed Sir Barks-a-Lot's lead and pulled her out by it. "Ready to go see your owner?" I asked her. She gave in a woo and nuzzled her face into my hand that was holding the leash. Her wet nose left a damp patch on me. I pulled her lead and followed the path out of the car park and into the cemetery. The wide expanse of land had rows upon rows of graves. There were breaks between groups of graves where trees, flowers, and bushes had been left to grow. It had always felt jarring seeing the plants, birds, bees, and other life running around a place that I associated with death. Life that was in full bloom as summer rolled on. I never got how they decided where graves would go and where trees would go. Was that land no good for digging? Or did they just want to make the place less depressing? As we weaved through rows of graves, Sir Barks-a-Lot stopped and growled. I caught something moving fast towards a bush. A squirrel? Or bunny, maybe? I gave a tug on the leash, and she followed me, ignoring the bush that had captivated her. I didn't see another person. The place was normally quiet. The only time you really got lots of people here was during a burial. The most life in the place was when there is a recent death. Is that irony? Never quite sure what is or isn't irony. When I found the location, I sat down in front of the grave. The ground was dry, so I didn't mind that, but I quickly got up to brush away the stones I sat on before returning to a sitting position. Sir put her head into my lap and rested. The grave was plain, just a stone slab that said, "In loving memory," and then the usual details. Sorry for taking so long to get here. It's been, well, you know. I have no idea what to say. They always talk in movies and books, but how do I have a one-sided conversation? I placed the flowers onto the grave. Well, here you go. Never got why we give flowers. Like, here you go, some flowers we cut the roots off of, and will slowly rot and wither to commemorate the fact that you're doing the same. I bet you would be the only one in the room to laugh at something like that. Your sense of humor was always off. I began to stroke Sir. Her fur was cut short, and I could feel her slow breathing as I ruffled her fur. Well, I thought it was time to bring her to visit her owner. I would say I have been taking care of her for you, but really she has been looking after me. Forcing me to get out of bed to feed her. Gotta leave the house to walk her. She's a cuddly sort. A bit needy, but I guess dogs take after their owners, huh? I could feel the tears welling up at my eyes and fought them off, swallowing the lump forming in my throat too. I got the key in the box it opens. Been too afraid to open it. I don't know if it's because it will make it more real, the last thing I need to do before your affairs are in order, or it's because, was what's in the box really worth it? Worth losing you? I don't want it. I wiped at the tears forming, and Sir let out a concerning whine and nuzzled against me. I think I'm just gonna sit here for a bit, if that's alright with you.
Well, alright, yeah, that is a fantastic story. I really enjoy how it allows us to really sit in this somber feeling, you know? And I really love how this main character is speaking about this other person that's passed with so much love, you know, and that really does bleed through the page. Also, I think that the addition of this dog being there does bring a sense of levity to it, which I do enjoy. So it is really like playing with the different tones and really, I guess, changing the throttle at certain points. Because I feel that a story that has this much weight to it could have really driven really far into just how sad this is and the emotions and how they can overflow. Also, the moment when the voice does like say that that they want to take that moment and just sit. I think that was a really strong choice and something that I really don't see too often in a lot of fiction pieces. How this voice character is really like humanized so much to where we understand their pain and we understand why they are here and exactly why they want to take this moment without, you know, spelling out the emotions that are bubbling up. And I think that's just a testament to how this story can really relate to the reader.
Yeah, I think it does a really good job of showing versus telling, right? You know, there's not a line that just says, I felt sad or whatever. Which has its own place, of course, but there's a really good... I think we get the sort of confusion, the sort of not, you know, fully grasping it, and then sort of that teetering on the edge of, like, understanding, but also breaking down, and they don't want to go over. So I thought that was really, really good. So Sarahpenguin writes about how this was very much like a sit down and explore kind of story with definitely. A vague idea and then sort of going with that. And I feel like that probably helped out a lot as you're, you know, leaving some of those questions open. Like, obviously we don't need to know the details of like, who this person was and how they died and all that stuff. Yeah. It's not important to this because it's about the person mourning. If I am going to have a question, I wasn't quite sure about what was going on with the box exactly, but I don't think that's that important.
Yeah. I mean, I was assuming that the box was like something left behind. Yeah. Right? But again, like on the same token, I don't like this story does a really, really great job of omitting certain things. You know, we omit the past of the other person who just died, which I think really works here because it's not about them; it's about this grieving process.
We don't even get the name on the grave, and I think that's okay too. I definitely prefer that we don't see the name on the grave because it's one of those stories where putting names makes it too specific. Exactly. Where if you leave it off, it is more universal, both for the main character not having a name and the grave, I think, for sure. Yeah, and definitely. A dog's a dog, so you can have the dog name.
Yeah, but Mr. Barks a lot. But yeah, and I think like on the same topic, this is a very universal story. You know, this almost reads like a therapeutic story, if that makes sense. You know, just to get those emotions out. But I can definitely see this story having a lot of benefit, if that makes sense, because it is speaking to this universal grieving process, this confusion after someone does pass. And yeah, I just think it's really strong in that aspect.
Yeah, mentioning the confusion as after someone's passed, I think that carries across with all the questions that the character is asking. They're not asking like, why are you gone, this or that. But it's very much like they're caught in wonderings of not understanding all the stuff around death. I thought those were really built the character and the character's voice for me, especially like you know, looking at all the life and stuff and asking about that. I think there was like one too many questions where I think it like showed up like a little too commonly, but other than that, I think it worked really, really well. And I think we can learn from that it's a really great way for us to characterize our characters. Like, what are they asking about? Yeah, exactly. What are their answers to those questions?
And like on the same topic of these questions, I do feel that there is that fine line between asking questions being a convention of the actual piece itself versus it being that character moment. So like going back to when you said that there might have been one too many questions, I do feel like, you know, if there were questions spread out throughout it to where like after every line the character is, you know, asking something without there being like a answer, I think that is still good. But I do enjoy how in this the questions are sort of limited to one space.
Sure.
After this tension is being built up from the beginning, so it's kind of like a blowout, if that makes sense.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, the tension within this piece is being built to this moment when they are asking these questions, right?
Okay.
To where these questions aren't being asked directly to the reader, and what the question says itself doesn't really matter. The fact is that the character is stuck in this confusion, this sense of wonderment, right? And I feel that, like as we said, that's a really good moment that worked to further characterize this character.
Something I did notice when I was reading it is that the tense changed by the end. I ended up like automatically correcting it as I was speaking, just because it felt weird to say otherwise. But the beginning is more in past tense, but present tense continues to pop up. And I relate to that. There's times where I'm writing a story and it really feels like the story wants to go present tense or wants to go past tense. And I think that's interesting. Sometimes it's just because we're in a habit of writing in a certain tense, and other times it's because it feels like the story should be written that way.
Yeah.
And I think just trying to identify which one of those it is while you're writing a story. And then obviously stick to one tense generally. Yeah, right? Generally. Unless if you have a reason not to. But if you do keep slipping into another tense, identify why.
Or at least, exactly, wonder why. I remember a old teacher that we both have, Miroslav, basically said that his own view on it is that most stories should be written in past tense.
I think he's a traditionalist, though.
He is very much. I mean, his favorite author was Kafka? Who was it?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was a Russian guy that he liked. But I mean, I do find that there is a certain amount of validity in that, because it does like link very much so to how stories are being traditionally told.
That's
as
true.
Something
that happened in the past.
Exactly. So I think for me that's a nice rule of thumb that like if it is in present tense, I think you should identify the reason as to why it needs to be in present tense. Same with using first person. Like what does making this in first person add to it versus if it wasn't in third person? And just being conscious of that, I think, is a important tool that you need to use.
To go on a tangent about perspectives,
yes,
and stuff. Something that I wonder occasionally. Well, I remember reading critiques sometimes, either from like professors or just like random people online and other stuff saying stuff about present tense where they say that it brings them out of the story because the story can't actually be told in present tense in real life, because you wouldn't tell a story as if it was actually happening in the moment. Yeah. Because whereas past tense, you are just telling a story that happened in the past, right? Which is interesting to me because almost every story now, especially, does not have a conceit at the beginning saying this is a true story. Yeah. A lot of them do. But especially if you look at old novels, they basically all do that. They say, this is a story I heard. If you read Frankenstein, it's like, I received this letter.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
They like built that frame.
Yeah, exactly. But that went away over time. And I wonder if that's sort of the same kind of thing with present tense, where it's like, you don't actually have to tell us why we're in present tense. Like, someone recording your thoughts or whatever. Like, you don't have to. Yeah. But like, maybe that's like, we just haven't built up the like, weight of the like normality of that.
I see. That. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because I mean, something I noticed, and I could be wrong about this, but a lot of YA fiction is in present tense.
A lot, yes.
And I think the usage of that is to not only capture this this moment, and it makes what is happening on the page does have a bit more weight when it's in present tense, because it's unfolding as it's happening versus the normal convention of this happened in the past, but since I'm still living now, that means I didn't die, you know? But like I can see usage in it, very, very much so. So yeah, I mean, of course, that's just something to think about. I know personally when I read present tense, since I grew up reading a whole bunch of not that good YA fiction, my mind straight up goes to like YA and like how they play with those emotions in that aspect. But yeah, I mean, like as you said, I guess there isn't a need for a frame anymore because it's already assumed that most stories that we read are fiction.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It's just something I was wondering about. I mean, all new mediums often struggle with that. Like nowadays, with a lot of podcast narratives, actually, there's people. There's sort of a feel a lot of times that you have to explain why there's a recording of this, right? Why are we recording the story? Is there like especially if you read a lot or listen to a lot of the like popular narrative podcasts in the last couple of years, especially when it first started blowing up, a lot of them have some sort of conceit about why this is being recorded, right? But over time, more and more, we've been going away with that. And it's like, actually, you can just do whatever. We can just hear people's voices because it's a story. It doesn't matter why we are listening. Anyway, this is a giant tangent, especially because this conceit wasn't even in the story. So I apologize, but
it's a good stuff, and either way, it's definitely something to really think about when it comes to going into your next story. Just staying conscious of the choices you are making. So instead of the story writing itself, you write the story with purpose.
Sure, yeah.
But back to Sarahpenguin's story. This, as we've already said, we've gushed over it plenty. It's a really solid story. I think you really do get to the bottom of these emotions, and you portray it in a way that is a lot more showy. I mean, and there really isn't any telling within this, which I think is really great. That is showing a lot of growth within you as a writer. And so, yeah, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, no, it's been really great because we've been doing this podcast for 2 years. I think Sarahpenguin has basically been since the beginning once we joined Doof. I mean, I think very early on joined us, and so it's just been really cool to see that growth since then. I mean, yeah, all of y'all listening should, if you've been writing for a while, go and read one of your old stories and then compare it to one of your new stories. Put them side by side.
Yeah.
And you can feel how much you've grown, and that motivates me anyway to be like, actually, this practice has been really good for me.
Exactly, yeah.
But all right, let's get into the listener submitted story section.
Exactamundo. So the best part about Do the Right Thing is when we talk about all the listener submitted stories, those little 30-minute pieces that you send in to us, post on our subreddit for us to read. So we will be talking about stories by Blari345, Kasubalu V2, No Goodbye, and Jarby Jazz.
Heck yeah. And
the first story from that long list of people we will be talking about is by Blari345 with Whispers in the Wall.
So this is a fun, short, I don't know, exploration, if that's a right term.
Yeah, it's definitely a interesting one.
Yeah, so we have a character listening, hearing some really creepy whispers, they sound super creepy. They sound like there's a ghost in the wall or someone dying somewhere. Yeah. And the main character is sort of freaking out about this and finally identifying where they think the sound's coming from a pipe. And then when they they break off the pipe because they're just so worried about this. And it seems like the sound was just coming from someone having trouble with tech support somewhere else in the building, and then the sound had just carried. And then it sort of ends with I'm never going to tell anyone about how I freaked out about some sound coming from a pipe.
Yeah.
So I think it's fun. I think it does leave a little bit of still of a mystery of
was it?
Was there something going on and they just felt relief once they found another excuse, or was it really just another person elsewhere in the building.
No. I mean, like, I really enjoy this story. It reminds me a lot of the beginning part of a Stephen King novel. I think it's called Salem's Lot, where, like, the main character is, like, listening to what he thinks is, like, rats in the wall, but then it turns out there might be people in the walls. But yeah, I mean, I think that this has a really fun twist ending. And I think that there is some pretty solid tension, like, built, like, as he is, like, looking around this room and, like, really sort of freaking out, only to find out that it is a tech support. So yeah, I think it is a really nice twist. I think the only thing that could possibly elevate this story is if there is a lot more, like, if there are more moments of curiosity and discovery in the beginning before we really get that twist
and rip off the
exactly, to where, you know, like, ooh, maybe it could be a poltergeist, you know, like, and really building that moment. But, like, as is, it is really solid. And yeah, I think the ending really did make me laugh, especially how it's sort of like it ends very open-ended. So really good.
Yeah, I thought that was a good exploration of this sort of confusion and discovery and such. Next story is by
Cthulhu V2 with I'll just put a pin in that.
Which is, I don't know, it's a fun title. So this one's pretty cool. We open with the description of patchwork shadows, which is an interesting phrase, and that sort of is the main tagline, I guess, for the monster in this. So this person is in front of an alleyway. They get a call from on their phone in a very creepy sense. It feels like they've already, like, they're halfway through a haunting, you know? And the voice on the line, which is described that it sounds like it was the voice of a sewing machine stitching together multicolored canvas into a much larger work, which billowed in the wind. Which is interesting because we have no idea how that is a voice, you know? And I think that is a fun mystery. But they accept a job from this thing to do something probably illegal, I believe. And then get drawn into the alleyway via threads. And we have that sort of patchwork, the rainbow patches in the darkness, sort of becoming that motif of this monster before it finally leaves and they have to go carry out this job. And there's no evidence of this patchwork monster except a red thread from their neck leading somewhere, which I thought was really cool. Creepy.
This story does really up the creep factor. I also think that the motif and like imagery of this monster is really cool.
Not that we ever like see it.
But like, you know, we see like pieces. You know, it reminds me a bit of like the classic Candyman. If you've ever seen that, okay, well. How, you know, you might see, like, you know, and it's like pointing towards this much larger threat, right? But overall, I just think I really like this story. I think it starts off really solid to where we can tell that this main character is very apprehensive about taking on this job. But I just think that the beginning is really great at setting up that tension. And then when we do actually like meet this monster, I love how we don't see it. You know, because I know in a lot of horror stories, I can understand wanting to show this like creation that you've made up in your head, but I think it works better with not seeing it, especially since, you know, there is much more to the story. This is going to possibly go out and carry out this deed, which, I mean, when I first read it, I was thinking, he's pushing drugs, but probably not. Probably something more. But yeah, overall, I really dug this story. It's a bit early because Halloween.
Oh wait, well, consider you could rewrite it for a contest. We might do a contest for Halloween.
Yeah.
I haven't decided what our theme for next month is going to be, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be spooky adjacent.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But this is great. I really like the monster description and especially the voice on the phone. That's my favorite. So appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, all right. Up next is by No Goodbye with Special Case.
So this is a fun story. I don't know if are you on /r/writing prompts at all?
I am, yeah.
It reminds me of those, which there's some excellent stories on there actually, but you know, there's a lot of prompts that come up over and over.
Yeah.
A lot of them have to do with different versions of death and stuff.
Yes.
So I've read so many You know, stuff like that. And this is fun. This is a different thing that I hadn't seen before. So, but there is the main character has been expecting death for a while, and we definitely get the sense very early on that they are some kind of immortal figure that like wrestles with death or something, or has a chess match or something to keep on living. But they haven't had a match in a while, and at the door is someone who's not death, but is also a Reaper. Dressed up in a Reaper thing, but clearly like, too young and not as serious.
And
And
Starter Reaper.
Yeah, and we get a bit of like a world building and just some banter, basically going back and forth with this immortal character that does not understand new technology, and then this young, basically I don't want to say intern, but like entry level maybe.
Yeah.
Mid level, entry mid level.
A like death
Door to door.
Yeah.
Deathman. Basically that the job of death has been. There's been a big reorganization of the underworld, and now it's done more through like a gig economy. I think it's with apps telling them how to do stuff. It's a fun sort of little satirical take on that. And then, but for a moment of humanization at the end, the new Reaper passes along a message to this immortal figure saying, "Hey," and there's a message from Death saying, "Hey, old buddy, old pal, I'm really sorry. I can't do your final match to kill you.
Sorry."
Yeah, it's just things have changed and I can't do that anymore. But sending over a Valkyrie, and she's going to give you the fight of your life. You're going to die, and then you're going to go to Valhalla, and it'll be great. You're going to love it there. And it's kind of like a sweet moment between them.
Yeah. Honestly, I really dig this story. First and foremost, because of the back and forth in the beginning between this character and this like deaf servant. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but whenever I hear a depiction of death and like deals, I immediately think of Bill and Ted.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Billy and Mandy.
Billy and Mandy, close. I mean, that is like a really good representation of death. But the version in Bill and Ted is hilarious because he's German for some reason.
Well, the one in Billy and Mandy is Jamaican.
Jamaican, yeah.
So I always forget about that.
Yeah. Jamaican skeleton.
It's fun.
But yeah, I mean, and I think that this story does really well at like keeping a lighter tone throughout it. I mean, even when we get this note, the note, even though the note is saying, "Oh yeah, you're gonna die. We're gonna kill you," it's still sweet. You know, it seems like two old friends saying like, "Hey, I'm sorry that I couldn't make it to your daughter's graduation." Basically, like it carries that like same tone. So yeah, overall, this is a really strong and like fun story. And I do like how I think it was like towards the end of the first section, they sort of speculate on who this person is. They're like, is he Sisyphus? Is he someone else? And it's never really answered, which I like.
Well, it's Adamas, but I don't know if it's...
yeah.
So I just did a Google. The name... A goggle. The name of the character's Adamas, which I think in Greek or otherwise, like it's it's related to adamantium, you know, invincible.
Oh, okay.
What?
No, it's just like, I was like, oh, like a Marvel reference.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, yeah. But there is not like a specific person in Greek myths and stuff that is named Adamas. But,
okay, so his name is just Invincible.
Yeah,
okay.
But I think it's fun because it basically, in this story, it's like we have totally forgotten about this guy. So
yeah, I kind of love it. And I guess they did the. Have you played Hades?
No.
Oh. You played Hades. Well, because I know like the main character of Hades is a actual person in the mythology, but it's a person that over time is basically just turned into Dionysus, right? So they sort of like lost their own story. So it could be something similar. But back on the story, yeah, I just really enjoy how it took this person who is their own character, but like sort of built this lore around it. And yeah, I just think that this is a really cute story about death.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, very fun. All right. Our final story for this week is by Jarby Jazz with A Conversation While Waiting for Rain, which is like the title of every Midwest emo album I've ever listened to.
I like that.
Yeah.
Waiting for Rain would be a cool... I don't know. I like that feel.
Yeah, that feels like a slow punk band, if that makes sense. Yeah.
You know more about it than I do.
I doubt.
I don't know much. Anyway, so basically, these two characters, who are, I believe are cousins, right?
Yes.
Yes, just cousins. This main character and then their cousin Brandon, who calls them uncle, as a sign of respect, but also like it's not really that respectful because their brother that they hang out with more often is younger than them, and they don't get called or is older than them, and they don't get called uncles. It's basically just like a little offended. Yeah, they calling me old, but basically, I like that explanation. But anyway, they are having a conversation on a boat as they're waiting for the inspections. This is we sort of discover as we read that this is the same story world that Darby Jazz has been writing in for a while with the necromancers and fleshcrafters and whatnot. But this is with characters that are barely related to that conflict at all.
Yeah, which I like. Yeah.
The port has been closed just because they're inspecting people for fleshcrafter stuff. And what's fun is that the main character doesn't know anything about magic basically at all. And then this young kid is like, oh yeah, there was a talking bird that landed here. I paid them for a newspaper. And the main character's like, oh yeah, I totally know that birds can deliver mail and talk?
Yeah, very confused.
Yeah, so that was fun. And I just thought there was a fun interaction between them. And as the uncle character, who's not an uncle, is trying to not seem uncool and failing.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, this whole story is just, them, like, as it says, a conversation as they're waiting for rain, And I think that this story works really well with establishing both of these characters, creating this really fun dynamic, something that I've definitely felt when I go to like a family reunion and you like meet your like play cousin who's like older, and you like go back and forth, but you're also razzing each other. So yeah, it really does work really well. And I also like how it is doing a bit more, I guess, world building in this wider world, but it is completely divorced from this mainline story that we have been reading, which I think was a really strong choice because we get to start back from ground zero. There are no retcons or like whatever. So yeah, I just think it's a really strong story that the characters and the dialogue really do push this story forward. So yeah, overall, really, really good.
Yeah, I thought the wanderings of this main character were fun, and especially the offense that they're taking by being called uncle. Yeah. I just like that very much. I think that the like asides and the thoughts that were like there was two kinds of description. Obviously, there was one that was just normal description of action and viewing and whatnot, and then there was the other that was like specific thoughts of the main character. Yeah, and I thought that the story was supposed to be like entirely within these are all thoughts kind of style, but it did feel, I don't know how to describe it, like a little bit.
When I was reading it, I was confused at those bits when it was like directly in the main character's head. But I think that's because those thoughts don't have something different done to them. Basically, like if they were bolded or like italicized, we could get that differentiation.
Well, see, that's the thing that I'm wondering is because like I read some of these like what on earth is a news bird that I don't think needs to be italicized, Yeah. Like because that works narrative. I don't know. There was some. I had some feeling. I don't know how to describe it, and this is making very bad critique.
No, but I get there were moments where some of these sides fit into the voice of how this story is being told, but then there were others that were more, I guess, conversational, but weren't actually being said.
Yeah, maybe it's just that. Okay, so I think what it is, there are some lines that I think should be bolded, and then some lines that are not bolded, italicized, and some that shouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, they don't have to be. Like, your formatting's whatever. I just like, conventionally. But it is very strange of like where that line is and how I feel like there is a line. Like, okay, very early on, there's this just a 2-sentence paragraph. Need to have a word with him about calling me uncle. Would give the locals the wrong impression, seeing as we're cousins. it's interesting because, like, I feel like the need to have a word with him about calling me uncle, sort of a note to self, would be the italicized word for word thought, right? Whereas it would give the locals the wrong impression, seeing as we're cousins, would not. Does that make any sense?
No, yeah.
Because, like, one is description, and then one is, like, just a personal thought.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm squinting a lot at Jarvis because I'm uncertain.
No, that does make perfect sense. And I think to alleviate that confusion would be to be conscious of like what is a question or a line that is more describing the physical and what should stay in the mental. And I feel with a story like this, if you do get that sort of dynamic down, it would really benefit this story, and it would even take it up a notch, because we're not only getting a really strong character voice, but we're also within this main character's head, which just allows us to care more about them. But yeah, I would say, like, I was also confused on some of those lines, and I just sort of like relegated that along with everything else being said in the main character's head, which means that we're in their head and they are describing everything through this filter. But yeah, finding that line would be really good.
I don't know how much of this is just like us picking something and deciding that is the reason that we felt off or something.
Well, no,
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, because besides that, everything else is great.
Good,
yeah, the dialogue is great. The characters are pretty relatable. I love the dynamic. I just feel that was the only part of it that I was unsure about when I was reading it.
Well, I hope we are correct. Regardless, thank you very much, Robbie Jazz, for the story, and we did very much enjoy it.
Very much so. So, we would like to say a big old do the right thing thank you to everyone who did submit a story this week. So, thank you very much to Sarahpenguin.
Thank you, Blari345.
Thank you, Kasubulu V2.
Thank you, No Goodbye.
And thank you, Jarby Jazz.
We really appreciate your submissions.
Yeah, very much so. We got plenty of submissions this week, so we appreciate it. Also, we would like to say thank you to everyone who did leave 2 or more comments. Leaving comments, not only under your own story, but under someone else's, will not only condense all of your ideas on your story so that everyone can see it, but you're providing someone else with crucial feedback that can only improve them and you into better writers. So, thank you very much to Jarby Jazz, Kasublu V2, No Goodbye, and Sarahpenguin. Thank you so much for leaving comments.
Absolutely. If you want to be like all these wonderful writers and send in your story to Do the Right Thing, just go to /r/Do the Right Thing. Set a 30-minute timer and write a short story using 3 of 4 randomly generated words that we are going to announce at the end of the podcast. You don't generate them yourself. I mean, you can do that.
Yeah, but we won't read it. So,
well, I mean, I would read it.
We would read it, but will we still talk about it?
Maybe, possibly.
Depends on how good it is.
Well, you can also post your story in the What Have You Been Writing thread, which we have once a month now.
Oh, okay.
I forgot to post one for September.
That's great.
I've consistently forgotten to post a new one for each month in the middle of the month, so it's almost like it's intentional. Because I post it around the 15th every time.
The Ides.
Oh, wow. I forgot that Ides are a thing.
Yeah. For some reason. Something happened back in the day that
the Ides of March, yeah.
Well, yeah, but like, was that a thing before that?
Yeah.
Before Shakespeare?
Yeah. Well, it was a Roman thing, especially.
Okay.
The Romans... basically every 2 weeks they would have a market day where everyone brings their stuff to market. I think that might have been the Ides, might have been a different thing. And they had a lot of holidays because they didn't have anything else to do. Yeah. So they had like a festival like every other week.
Because they didn't have TV. They didn't have... They had games probably.
But they didn't have like good games. They didn't have baseball. They didn't have
like Settlers of
Catan. Yeah, that's right.
Or D&D.
You think that they would have conquered everything if they had Settlers of Catan?
I think they would have been content. Because they would be like, okay, why go to war
when I can
breed more of these fucking camels?
Exactly. Anyway,
also, if you want to send us a message of any sort, just saying hey, telling us how you're doing, any problems that you're having in your personal life, actually, you
actually don't do that. I don't want to hear your personal problems.
Well,
to be
okay,
honest.
you can send that to me personally.
Yeah. Do you have a Doof Media email yet?
I don't.
You can ask for one.
I could, yeah.
Probably sometime in the future there will be a jarvis@doofmedia.com email.
Yes, and you can send me anything. You can send me memes too. Fanfic, as long as it's not terribly smutty.
Okay, it could be smutty.
Just a little bit. Just
Fanfic
enough to like get
about us. That's self-insert.
Yeah,
Get involved in the show.
Yeah, anything but smut.
Like we really liked your story, you know?
Yeah, we
really...
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done. I can't. I'm sorry.
But if you want to send us anything, send us your story. Or if for any reason you want additional critiques on a certain story, you can send that to our rightthingcast@gmail.com email, and we'll be sure to check that periodically.
I really liked your up and down voice for all of that. It was pretty good. Regardless, if you want to see the words as soon as they come out, the best place to do that would be to follow us on Twitter @rightthingcast and hit that notification bell.
Bing.
So you can see it as soon as it comes out. You'd also get the notification that this episode is gonna be late. It's gonna be come out later in the day than normal.
Yep.
And you would know that if you followed us. And if you didn't know that, well, should have followed us on Twitter.
Should have. And also,
shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Of course, if you want to support us and everything else happening in Doof Media, you can do that by donating to the Doof Media Patreon. Each month, if you donate $10 or more per month, you will not only be able to vote in everything upcoming in Doof, but you will also get access to exclusive bonus content, including our personal Doof overs and Doof After Darks.
Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen it, actually, a new episode of The High Ground just became public. That is nice. One of our bonus content podcasts, but they're releasing some of their older things. So if you want to hear Ruben, Elliot, and both of Elliot's sisters talk about Pirates of the Caribbean, it's out. It's really fun. They just have what? You made like a confused face.
Oh, I thought it was Caribbean.
No, it's Caribbean.
Wow. Touche turtle.
I mean, it might not be. I just much prefer it to say it that way. I don't like it when people say Caribbean.
I mean, you're South American.
But that's not even close.
It's not.
No.
It's like a Middle America.
I'm probably... Actually, Uruguay is further from the Caribbean than Texas is.
Is it?
Texas is right next to it.
That is true. It's in the Gulf.
Yeah, Uruguay has a Brazil in between, so...
So you're Brazilian.
That's not... Anyway,
yes.
So you can find that on the Doof Media website. There's always so much else going on in Doof Media. On Friday, the Doofcast on Groundhog Day is going to come out. So if you haven't listened to that, it's going to be pretty fun. We also have actually Doof and Chill on Friday. I forgot about that. So we're going to be playing Jackbox or something else online. Wait, no, we changed it. We do have a Doof and Chill.
Okay.
This Friday, coming right up, the 17th. I thought today was Thursday. Whoops. Anyway, Friday. And instead we're going to be streaming a big watch party of the first few episodes of Invincible.
I love that
show. Yeah. So I think it's going to be on our Twitch, because Twitch now lets us do that. I think you do have to have Amazon Prime to watch it.
Okay.
But if you have Amazon Prime, you can go to see our Twitch stream, and we'll all watch it together and comment on it and maybe heckle the show. Probably not. But
we'll probably be silent.
We'll talk in the chat at the very least. So that'll be fun. But yeah, that's all we have for y'all. I do have one more thing to tell y'all about, but it's actually not Doof Media related. What is it? In fact, I'm gonna take a quick pause with Jarvis here to actually tell him what I'm talking about. So the thing I have brought this week is another member of Doof Media sent this to me, and I'm really glad that he did. It's the Effective Altruism creative writing contest that they're having right now. It has $10,000 in prizes for good stories, and y'all are really good writers. I actually really think that y'all would have a good shot at winning one of those. So basically what they are asking for is basically like a sort of rational fiction, some sort of short story, nonfiction or not, that promotes, belief in sciences and solving problems in the world, or celebrates the problems that we have solved, that sort of thing. So if you want to go see that, you can go into our description where we have a link for it. Let me go look at what the prizes are. It's pretty impressive prizes, actually. Hold on. So the top 2 categories of fictional and creative nonfiction will have a $2,500 top prize, and then 5 honorable mentions will have $1,000 each. So that's kind of a lot of options for winning. And you will have to submit it, I think, on their forum. But then you'll be in consideration. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so if you want a chance to win $1,000 to $2,500 and also, add your story to the world, promoting, good things, then go to the link.
And this is rational fiction / rational nonfiction?
Yeah, basically, more or less. Or just science promoting, science celebrating.
Okay, I see.
Progress celebrating, that kind of thing. That seems to be... there's a big description and examples in the post. So.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm guessing we should probably link that in the description.
Yes, we will. And finally, the deadline is October 29th. So you have about a month and a half to get those in.
Yeah, so please, if you want to win fantastic prizes and promote some good in this backwards world, you can submit your story to this fantastic contest.
Heck yeah. All right, let's close out the episode. This has been one of our longer ones in a while.
Yes, it has. So, next week, the words that you will be using in your fantastic stories. And again, this is still the month of September, so it's a one-scene story. But the words for next week are predict, convulsion, valid, and rent.
Fun words. So to predict, which is to guess about the future, ideally trying to be correct. So a synonym would be to prophesize.
Prophesize, yes.
Or otherwise try to see the future. That's all I got.
That's all I got.
The next one is convulsion, which is...
when the body moves badly, yes. It's a bad move.
It's a bad move.
Typically people that have seizures
are convulsing. Convulsing? Is that how you...
Convulsing?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Convulsion. Could that also be like...
It sounds like revulsion.
Yeah.
But not.
Could a convulsion be like an impulse that someone does?
So if there's a convulsion, is there a provulsion?
Provulsion? Or just vulsion?
Provulsion. That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, that sounds like perversion.
If you all want to write about provulsions, I'm all for it. Yeah. I want to see what that means.
Yeah, pervulsion nonfiction is what we're looking.
So yes, that's convulsions.
Yeah.
Valid, which is when something is acceptable.
Yeah, validated.
So your ticket can be valid if it is acceptable.
Your feelings are valid.
Your feelings are always valid.
Always.
Well,
yeah.
Almost always.
I mean, is there a time when feelings aren't valid?
If you're just being a dick.
Well, yeah.
And you're just choosing to be mad or something like that,
Yeah, but of course, when someone's being a dick, there's probably like other underlying reasons.
Yeah, but it's like if they're choosing to be like a victim, you know what I mean?
I see,
like if they're not really at all, and they're just like...
But they're doing it because it makes their shows looking better. Then
yeah.
If you prescribe to that, then...
But almost, actually, I really shouldn't even mention that because almost all feelings are valid.
Yeah,
your feelings are valid, listener. You're wanting us to get on with it. That's a valid
feeling, which means that we're going into Rent, which is a fantastic musical. One of my favorites.
Yeah, I haven't listened to any of it, actually.
You really need to see it. It's about the AIDS epidemic, but it's also about, being poor and not being able to
Last week's rent.
Or
is it last month's? I don't know.
How we're gonna pay last year's rent.
Oh,
is last year's.
Sorry.
Which is why it's terrifying, because they're literally years behind on rent. But they're all squatters, so they have like rights to like live there. But it's like really fun. It is definitely a product of the 90s.
So rent is to give payments for the use of something, even though you do not own it.
Yes, sometimes people will rent a car indefinitely. I think typically when it comes to renting, you are paying to use it without the possibility of owning it. So it's not like rent to own. It's just
not a lease.
Yeah, exactly.
This is actually, you can sign a lease to like have something temporarily, right? Can't you?
Yeah, because I signed a lease for this place.
Yeah,
and I don't own this place.
Yes, that is perhaps just a rent contract.
Yeah.
I don't know words, actually.
I don't think there's any other definition for rent, is there?
A rent could be like a tear in something. Like
yes. Like a rent in fabric.
Yes.
Yes.
Or rent in the fabric of time.
Ooh.
Fabric seems to come up a lot.
Yeah.
With rent.
Fabric rent fabric. You can also rent fabric at Joann's Fabric.
You could rent a horse.
Yeah, but who will want a horse? Unless you're like a horse girl.
For the guy that you mentioned earlier. But we're not. I don't want to say anything else. I want to move on right now. What's the story you're gonna?
The story I'm gonna write next week is about Mr. Hands.
No, I don't want you to name him.
So the story I'm going to be writing next week is going to be about a man stuck in a black void.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the reason why he is stuck here is because he predicted the end of the world.
Right.
So to not die during that, he got a bunker under a tree.
Okay.
But the issue is that down deep in the heart of the world, in the heart of Texas, there are gases that cause him to convulse periodically. But it's also the only way for him to possibly live, right? But he does this 2 years before the world actually ends. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people think that his ideas and feelings aren't valid,
mm-hmm.
right? But the plus side is that, yes, he will survive the end of the world. And also he's living there rent free.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Mm-hmm. I'm glad.
Yeah. What about you? What amazing 20-word story are you going to be writing next week?
So someone was really afraid about going on the planes. Oh, we're counting words?
We're counting words.
Oh, no.
You're at 7 right now.
Flying on the planes and decided to rent a dog that would predict when bad things would happen. So they went to the airport, and then the airport people were like, that's actually not a valid dog. You can't bring the dog. And he was like, I want to bring the dog. And they were like, you can't bring the dog. And they were like, you really can't. And he was like, but I really want to. And they were like, you really, really can. And he was like, okay, fine. Can you take care of the dog? And they were like, no, we can't just take care of the dog. You got to take the dog back. And he was like, but my flight is now, or whatever. And then they were like, okay, well, just book you a different flight. Come back tomorrow. And so he took the dog back, and he gave the dog back to the people that he rented them from. And then he went back to the airport, and then he got on the plane, right? Because this time he doesn't have the dog.
Yeah.
And he got on the plane, and then the plane took off. And then the pilot had convulsions and died, and then the plane crashed. It wouldn't have happened if he could have the dog.
Was he valid? Was he valid in that situation?
No, because he didn't have the dog. The dog wasn't valid. Didn't have a certificate.
Wow.
Of validity.
That sounds like the B-side story of that Hachiko story, the dog that waited for his master.
Oh, it's so sad. I want to talk about it. Do the right thing and don't mention it. Do the right thing. Bye.
Bye.
That's the show.